The Dirty Dozen wasn't just another World War II action flick. It was a brutal, chaotic production that nearly destroyed careers, permanently injured actors, and sparked a revolution in how violence was portrayed on screen. While audiences watched Lee Marvin lead convicted killers on a suicide mission behind enemy lines, the real drama was happening behind the camera. Fistfights between stars, a director battling studio executives daily, actors performing dangerous stunts without safety equipment, and one football legend who quit Hollywood forever after the experience. Today, I'm revealing 20 weird facts about the Dirty Dozen that even hardcore fans don't know. And stick around for our bonus fact, the shocking reason why several scenes were permanently cut from the film and buried in the studio vault. Number 20. The film's working title was Operation Dirty Dozen. What audiences didn't know was that MGM executives hated the final title. For most of production, everyone called it Operation Dirty Dozen, believing the military operation framing would appeal to audiences. But director Robert Aldrich fought relentlessly to drop Operation, insisting the focus should be on the men, not the mission. These aren't soldiers, Aldrich reportedly told studio heads during a heated meeting. They're animals being led to slaughter. The title needs to reflect that brutality. The studio finally relented after test audiences responded powerfully to the shorter title during preview screenings. This would set the pattern for the entire production. Aldrich fighting for his darker, more provocative vision against studio demands for a more conventional war film. Number 19. John Wayne turned down the lead role for moral reasons. Lee Marvin wasn't the first choice to play Major Reisman. The role was originally offered to John Wayne, who rejected it immediately. It wasn't scheduling conflicts or money, it was moral objection. Wayne read the script and was appalled by the premise of American soldiers executing enemy officers in cold blood. He didn't just pass on the role, he actively campaigned against the film, calling it un-American garbage and urging fellow actors to avoid the project. "I don't mind playing a character with flaws," Wayne reportedly told his agent, "but I won't play someone who murders for his country and calls it heroism." This rejection actually shaped the final film, as Aldrich and Lee Marvin leaned into the moral ambiguity that Wayne found so objectionable, creating a darker, more complex war narrative than Hollywood had previously dared to show. Number 18. The actors lived in actual military barracks during filming. Method acting took on new meaning for the Dirty Dozen. The cast didn't retreat to luxury hotels after filming. Instead, they were housed in converted military barracks on location in England, sleeping on army cots with minimal amenities. Director Aldrich didn't implement this arrangement to save money. It was a deliberate psychological tactic to create authentic tension and camaraderie. The actors weren't just portraying convicted criminals forced into military service, they were experiencing a taste of that confinement themselves. "We hated it at first," Donald Sutherland later recalled. "No privacy, terrible food, cold showers. But after a week, something changed. We stopped being actors and started becoming a unit." That translated directly to what you see on screen. The strategy worked almost too well. Several physical altercations broke out in the barracks, including a notorious fight between Charles Bronson and Telly Savalas that had to be broken up by Lee Marvin. Number 17. Lee Marvin was drunk for most of the production. Lee Marvin's commanding performance as Major Reisman wasn't just acting, it was functioning alcoholism at its most productive. The combat veteran turned actor rarely appeared on set sober, starting most days with a mixture of beer and vodka that continued throughout filming. It wasn't just recreational. Marvin, who had served as a Marine in the Pacific during World War II and was wounded in action at Saipan, found that alcohol helped him manage his combat-related trauma while performing in war scenes. Production assistants were assigned to Marvin duty, making sure he was functional enough to perform but not monitoring his actual intake. Director Aldrich was aware but never intervened, later saying, "Lee knew exactly how much he needed to function at his best. I've never seen an actor so consistently deliver perfect takes while maintaining that level of chemical assistance." Remarkably, Marvin never missed a day of shooting, though several scenes were filmed out of sequence to accommodate his morning recovery periods. Number 16. One actor was nearly decapitated during the training sequence. The training sequence, where the dozen scale a replica fortress wall, wasn't filmed with modern safety standards. No harnesses, no padding below, just ropes, wooden structures, and gravity. During one take, actor Tom Busby, who played Milo Vladek, lost his grip 30 feet up. As he fell, his dog tags caught on a protruding nail, nearly severing his throat before the chain broke. He plummeted to the ground, breaking his collarbone and suffering a severe laceration just millimeters from his jugular vein. Instead of halting production, Aldrich had medics treat Busby behind the camera while filming continued. The actor returned to set the next day, heavily bandaged, and his character's subsequent appearances were filmed strategically to hide the injury. In today's Hollywood, that accident would have shut down production for weeks. Assistant director Hal Landers later said, "Back then, it was just Tuesday." Number 15. Jim Brown quit acting because of this film. NFL legend Jim Brown didn't just take a break from football to film The Dirty Dozen. The production effectively ended his gridiron career and nearly killed his acting career before it began. Brown's contract included a clause requiring him to return to the Cleveland Browns by July 1967 for training camp. But when filming fell behind schedule, Aldrich refused to rearrange shooting to accommodate Brown's football commitments. It wasn't just scheduling. Brown endured constant racial harassment from certain crew members, finding racial slurs written on his dressing room door multiple times during production. The studio investigated half-heartedly but took no substantial action. Faced with an impossible choice and a hostile environment, Brown chose film over football, announcing his retirement from the NFL at age 30. The decision cost him millions in football earnings and sparked a bitter public feud with Brown's owner Art Modell that lasted decades. "I came to make a movie," Brown later wrote, "and ended up making enemies I never wanted and decisions I wasn't ready for." Number 14. Charles Bronson and Telly Savalas hated each other on sight. What audiences see as tough guy camaraderie on screen was anything but behind the camera. Charles Bronson, who played Joseph Ladislaw, and Telly Savalas, Archer Maggot, developed an immediate, intense dislike for each other that escalated throughout production. The conflict stemmed from their diametrically opposed approaches to acting. Bronson was methodical, reserved, and preparation obsessed. Savalas was expressive, improvisational, and constantly altered his dialogue without warning. Their tension erupted physically during the film's mess hall scene. When Savalas improvised an ethnic slur not in the script, Bronson responded with a punch that connected before crew members could intervene. Director Aldrich, rather than disciplining either star, incorporated their genuine animosity into the film. "You can't fake that kind of hatred," Aldrich later commented. "I just made sure the cameras were rolling when they were near each other." The two actors never worked together again and reportedly maintained their mutual dislike for the remainder of their careers. Number 13. The climactic chateau explosion used real dynamite and injured multiple crew members. The massive explosion that caps the film's attack sequence wasn't special effects. Wizardry, it was actual high explosives detonated in a real structure with actors present. No miniatures, no optical tricks, just tons of dynamite packed into a full-size chateau replica. Special effects coordinator John Evans initially planned a controlled demolition, but Aldrich demanded something more spectacular. The resulting blast used more than 3 times their originally planned explosives. The detonation proved catastrophic. The explosion exceeded safety parameters, sending debris hundreds of yards beyond the established perimeter. 3 camera operators suffered hearing damage despite wearing protection. A flying timber struck assistant props master Terry Williams, breaking his leg in 2 places. Most alarmingly, director Aldrich and stars Lee Marvin and Ernest Borgnine were positioned much closer to the blast than safety protocols allowed, protected only by a hastily constructed shield that partially collapsed under the shockwave. "We didn't make movies then," special effects assistant Ray Mercer later said. "We survived them." Number 12. The film's most famous line was improvised by Donald Sutherland. When Donald Sutherland's character, Vernon Pinkley, impersonates a general during the inspection scene, the script called for a brief, forgettable exchange. What made it to film, Sutherland's bizarre inspection and deadpan delivery of, "They're very pretty, Colonel, but can they fight?" was entirely improvised on the spot. Sutherland, then a relatively unknown actor, had been frustrated with his character's minimal dialogue. Without telling anyone, he developed the peculiar inspection routine, complete with exaggerated movements and the instantly iconic line. Director Aldrich was initially furious about the deviation, but immediately recognized its brilliance. The scene transformed overnight from a transitional moment to one of the film's most memorable sequences. More significantly, it elevated Sutherland from background player to standout performer. "I thought I was going to be fired on the spot," Sutherland later recalled. Instead, that one improvised moment probably launched my entire career. The line has since been referenced and parodied in dozens of films and television shows. Number 11. The production. Accidentally started a forest fire that burned 20 acres during filming of the training sequences in England's Chiltern Hills. A controlled explosion scene went catastrophically wrong. High winds carried burning debris into the surrounding forest, igniting a blaze that quickly spread beyond containment. It wasn't just a minor incident. The fire destroyed nearly 20 acres of protected woodland before local fire brigades could extinguish it. Production was halted for 3 days while authorities investigated. MGM ultimately paid a substantial fine, approximately $50,000, a massive sum in 1966, to the British Forestry Commission and faced severe restrictions on all subsequent pyrotechnic scenes. The incident strained already tense relations with local authorities, who had been skeptical about allowing the production to film in the area from the beginning. Several key outdoor scenes had to be hastily rewritten to accommodate new filming limitations. After that, we had fire marshals watching our every move. Assistant director Hal Landers remembered. Every match we lit needed 3 forms of approval. Number 10. The film changed how violence was rated in cinema. Go ahead and like and subscribe because we're about to reveal how The Dirty Dozen literally changed movie history. This isn't just film trivia, it's the reason why movies are rated the way they are today. When The Dirty Dozen premiered, its unflinching depiction of violence, particularly the scene where prisoners dropped grenades into a shelter containing German officers and their female companions, sparked unprecedented public outrage. The film wasn't just controversial, it became a cultural flashpoint. Jack Valenti, who had recently become president of the Motion Picture Association of America, cited The Dirty Dozen specifically when arguing for the creation of a new film rating system. The film's commercial success, despite or because of its violent content, convinced Valenti that audiences needed clearer guidance about content. 16 months after the film's release, the MPAA introduced the rating system we're familiar with today, replacing the outdated Hays Code. Without The Dirty Dozen's boundary-pushing violence, this transformation might have taken years longer. Your like and subscribe helps us uncover more stories about films that didn't just entertain. They changed entertainment itself. Number 9. Lee Marvin trained the actors using real military drills. Lee Marvin didn't just play a military officer in The Dirty Dozen, he was one in real life. A decorated Marine veteran of World War II, Marvin took his role as Major Reisman beyond acting and into actual military leadership. Before filming began, Marvin convinced director Aldrich to give him 2 weeks with the cast. Without cameras rolling, Marvin subjected his fellow actors to authentic Marine Corps training regimens, including pre-dawn wake-ups, grueling physical drills, and tactical exercises. It wasn't preparation for specific scenes, it was preparation for a mindset. Marvin didn't consult the script or discuss camera angles. He made actors run obstacle courses carrying full packs, perform endless calisthenics, and learn actual WWII-era combat maneuvers. He didn't care about our dialogue or hitting marks. John Cassavetes later said, "He wanted us to move, think, and react like soldiers. By the time cameras rolled, we weren't acting anymore. We were responding from muscle memory." Several actors, including Telly Savalas and Donald Sutherland, later credited this unorthodox preparation with the authentic military feel of their performances. Number 8. John Cassavetes used his paycheck to fund his independent film masterpiece. John Cassavetes, who earned an Oscar nomination for his role as Victor Franco, had ulterior motives for joining the big-budget production. The pioneering independent filmmaker took the role specifically to finance his passion project, Faces, now considered a landmark of American independent cinema. It wasn't just supplementary funding. The entire budget for Faces came from Cassavetes' Dirty Dozen paycheck. Every dollar he earned playing Franco went directly into his independent film. The contrast between productions couldn't have been more stark. By day, Cassavetes worked on MGM's multi-million-dollar war spectacle with hundreds of crew members. At night, he edited Faces footage in his hotel room, planning shots for his skeleton crew of friends, working with borrowed equipment. "I'm selling my soul on this picture," Cassavetes told a reporter during filming, "so I can buy it back with the next one." The gamble paid off. Faces earned Cassavetes critical acclaim and established his reputation as America's foremost independent filmmaker, while his Dirty Dozen performance proved he could succeed in mainstream cinema on his own terms. Number 7. The film's extensive reshoots nearly doubled the budget. What started as a tightly budgeted 14-week shoot spiraled into a 28-week ordeal that nearly bankrupted MGM. The cause wasn't weather, accidents, or typical production delays. It was director Robert Aldrich's obsessive pursuit of his vision despite studio objections. Aldrich shot the film as scripted, then promptly ignored MGM executives' notes and began extensive reshoots of sequences they had already approved. He didn't request permission or additional budget. He simply continued filming alternate versions, creating a financial nightmare that increased costs by over 80%. Studio head James T. Aubrey finally flew to London personally to confront Aldrich, threatening to remove him from the production. The standoff resulted in a compromise. Aldrich could complete his vision, but would forfeit a significant portion of his back-end profit participation. Bob bet on himself, cinematographer Edward Scaife later said. He knew the film would be huge and chose the movie over the money. Aldrich's gamble succeeded critically and commercially, though his relationship with MGM was permanently damaged. The studio never hired him again. Number 6. A real-life Dirty Dozen unit contacted the filmmakers. During post-production, director Aldrich received a mysterious package containing photographs, mission reports, and a handwritten letter from a man claiming to be part of an actual Dirty Dozen unit in World War II. The correspondence came from former Staff Sergeant Thomas Collins, who served in a classified OSS unit composed primarily of military prisoners, offered commutation in exchange for participating in high-risk missions behind German lines. Collins provided documented evidence of 3 operations between 1943 and 1945 that closely paralleled elements of the film's fictional mission, including the targeting of high-ranking German officers at a secured facility. MGM legal department advised against acknowledging the communication, fearing potential claims against the production. Aldrich, however, met privately with Collins after the film's completion and incorporated several of the veterans' suggestions into the final edit. The movie's not a documentary, Aldrich later told a film historian, but it's closer to reality than anyone at the time was comfortable admitting. Collins' unit remains largely unacknowledged in official military histories. Number 5. The film caused a diplomatic incident with West Germany. The Dirty Dozen's depiction of American soldiers killing German officers and their female companions in cold blood didn't just upset John Wayne, it created an international incident. Upon the film's European release in 1967, West German officials formally protested to the U.S. State Department, claiming the film portrayed German military personnel as immoral and deserving of execution, potentially damaging NATO relations during Cold War tensions. The controversy intensified when several West German theaters showing the film received bomb threats, forcing temporary closures. German newspapers ran editorials questioning whether such anti-German propaganda should be allowed 20 years after the war's end. MGM executives, concerned about the film's commercial prospects in the lucrative German market, created a specially edited version with the chateau attack sequence significantly modified. This German cut removed all scenes showing women in the bunker and shortened the deaths of the German officers. Director Aldrich publicly denounced this alternative version, calling it castrated cinema and urging German audiences to reject it. Number 4. One actor suffered permanent hearing loss during filming. The film's commitment to realism came with severe consequences for actor Al Mancini, who played convict Tassos Bravos. During the chateau assault sequence, performers fired blanks from authentic World War II weapons without adequate ear protection, a common practice before modern safety standards. After a scene requiring multiple takes of close-quarter gunfire, Mancini experienced severe tinnitus and hearing difficulties. Production medics dismissed it as temporary, and filming continued. It wasn't temporary. Subsequent medical examination revealed Mancini had suffered permanent nerve damage in his right ear, resulting in approximately 70% hearing loss that affected him for the remainder of his life and acting career. Despite this life-altering injury, Mancini received minimal compensation from the studio, a one-time payment equivalent to 2 weeks' salary. His workers' compensation claim was denied on the technicality that he had signed a general liability waiver before filming began. "They gave me a lifetime souvenir from the production," Mancini later said bitterly. "Every time my ear rings, I remember the Dirty Dozen." Number 3. Director Robert Aldrich secretly filmed 2 different endings. What audiences don't realize is that the film they've seen for decades isn't the ending Robert Aldrich actually wanted. The director secretly shot an alternative, darker conclusion without studio knowledge or approval. In Aldrich's preferred ending, none of the Dirty Dozen survived their mission, not even Lee Marvin's Major Reisman. The final scene showed German soldiers discovering the bodies of all 12 convicts, plus Reisman scattered throughout the chateau grounds, followed by a military ceremony where they're posthumously honored while their criminal records are expunged. When MGM executives discovered this unauthorized alternate ending during editing, they were furious. The film had been marketed as a thrilling adventure, not a nihilistic statement on the futility of war. They demanded Aldrich use the more conventional ending where Marvin and some team members escape. Aldrich attempted to screen both versions for test audiences, but the studio intercepted and destroyed his preferred cut before it could be shown. They sold audiences a lie. Aldrich complained years later, "War isn't about survival, it's about necessary sacrifice." Number 2. The U.S. military officially condemned the film. While many war films enjoy Pentagon cooperation, The Dirty Dozen earned unprecedented official military condemnation. The Department of Defense didn't just deny support, they actively campaigned against the production. After reviewing the script, military officials issued a formal statement calling the film a gross distortion of military justice and operational procedure, and refused any technical assistance or equipment loans. When production moved forward anyway, the Pentagon took the extraordinary step of sending a memorandum to all military bases prohibiting service members from participating as extras while in reserve duty. The military's primary objection centered on the film's premise that the Army would recruit condemned prisoners for sensitive operations. General William Westmoreland, then commanding U.S. forces in Vietnam, personally criticized the film as detrimental to the armed services during wartime. This opposition intensified after release, with military newspapers publishing editorials urging service members to boycott the film. The controversy actually boosted civilian audience interest, turning the official condemnation into an unexpected marketing advantage. Number 1. The film's violence nearly earned it an unprecedented X rating. The Dirty Dozen wasn't just controversial, it almost became the first major studio film branded with the cinema equivalent of obscenity. The film's unflinching brutality, particularly during the chateau sequence, shocked even hardened industry censors. What most viewers don't realize is that the version in theaters was significantly toned down from Aldrich's original cut. Initial screenings for MGM executives featured much more graphic violence, including extended sequences of German officers and women burning alive while trapped in the bunker. The studio demanded cuts, but Aldrich initially refused. The standoff escalated when the newly formed MPAA ratings board warned the film would receive their most restrictive classification, effectively killing its commercial prospects. Only then did Aldrich relent, removing nearly 7 minutes of graphic footage. Even in its edited form, the film received the equivalent of an R rating, unusual for major studio releases in 1967. The excised footage has never been publicly shown, though rumors persist that Aldrich preserved his original cut, which remains in private collections. "We pushed the boundaries," editor Michael Luciano later said, then took one step back from the abyss. Bonus fact: the most closely guarded secret of The Dirty Dozen isn't on any screen, it's buried 6 feet underground at the film's primary location in Hertfordshire, England. On the final day of shooting, Lee Marvin gathered a small group of cast members for an unofficial ceremony away from producers and studio representatives. Marvin, who had become increasingly philosophical about the film's themes of redemption and sacrifice, created a time capsule containing personal items from each actor, along with a handwritten letter about the experience of making the film. The group buried this container near a distinctive oak tree on the property, with Marvin declaring it should remain undisturbed for 50 years. What makes this particularly intriguing is that only 4 people witnessed the burial: Marvin, Charles Bronson, Jim Brown, and John Cassavetes, all now deceased. The exact location was never documented, and the property has since changed ownership multiple times. According to Cassavetes' widow, Gina Rowlands, the time capsule included Marvin's actual Marine Corps dog tags, Bronson's first professional acting contract, and a significant personal item from each participant. The time capsule would now be eligible for recovery under Marvin's 50-year instruction, but without surviving witnesses, its location remains a mystery. The Dirty Dozen wasn't just a film that pushed boundaries, it shattered them completely, forever changing how war movies were made and how violence was portrayed on screen. Its legacy extends beyond entertainment into film history, rating systems, and military Hollywood relations. What began as a standard war picture transformed into a cultural touchstone that still influences filmmakers today. The next time you watch this classic, you'll see beyond the mission to the real story behind one of Hollywood's most challenging and consequential productions. If you enjoyed these revelations about The Dirty Dozen, hit that subscribe button for more untold Hollywood stories, and share in the comments which of these facts surprised you the most.